Good morning. I'd like to bring this meeting to order. First, I'd like to notice, or I'll just read this out, notice to attendees and delegates that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the Regional District website. And first we can introduce committee members and staff present in the boardroom. And maybe we can start over on this side.
Christy Arsenault.
Jim Warm. Brad Jaskin.
Pam Craig.
Matt McLeod, Water Utilities Lead Hand.
Good morning, everybody. Eddie Kunderman, Operations Manager with the ACRD.
Hello, Lindsay Page, Community Services Coordinator with the ACRD.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And I'm Susan Roth, the Regional Director for Beaver Creek. Okay, so first I'd like to acknowledge that we're doing business on the traditional territories of Tishat First Nation and Hoopachesset First Nation. Now we'll move into the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Craig.
Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Jim. And did anyone have anything to add or any problems with the agenda? All good? Could I get a motion to approve it? Or sorry, could I get a vote on it? All in favor? Motion carried. Now, declarations of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? I don't see any, so we can move to the next one. Minutes, Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee meeting held on September the 18th, 2025. Could I get a motion to adopt these minutes?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Christy. Seconder, Jim. Anything about the minutes? Any business arising or errors or omissions? I don't see any. Could I get all in favor of the minutes? Motion carried. There aren't any petitions, delegations, and presentations. Next is correspondence for action. There isn't any. Request for decisions, number 7. The first one is the Beaver Creek Water Service Rate Review. Would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, and through the chair. So good morning, everybody. The first report we'll be reviewing today addresses the financial impacts of the interim bulk water agreement with the City of Port Alberni. As you know, the agreement will result in a significant increase in operating costs for the Beaver Creek water system, approximately $160,000 annually, depending on how much water is actually purchased. So because of that, and to ensure the system remains financially sustainable, staff are recommending amendments to bylaw F1148, including an increase to the quarterly base rate by $20 for single-family residential, $23 for secondary and commercial connections, both effective April 1st, 2026, and then reducing the allowable consumption per quarter from 90 cubic meters to 60 cubic meters. These changes aim to offset the increased cost of bulk water while also promoting water conservation. We recognize these recommendations may be challenging for some users, and the report outlines alternative options for the committee's consideration. Our goal today is to review these options and have the committee provide staff direction to balance financial stability with fairness to system users. Within the report, we've also looked and provided the committee a recommendation that would include only increasing the quarterly rates and not touching the allowable consumption. And we've also provided a way to offset the increase in expenses with a combination of water rate increase and tax rate increase to the users. The report is in front of you. Happy to discuss and answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thanks, Eddie. Are there any questions? Christy?
I was wondering on page 7, do we have an average consumption rate for properties up there? Like, do we have, when we're looking at the overall consumption of water, you know, are most households under 60? do we have, smaller number of larger users? Because as I'm looking at this, trying to figure out the best way to go for the majority of people up there and who we'd be hitting the most.
Thank you for the question. So when we worked this out, I don't have the actual numbers on how many system users are above the allowable, how many are under. It does fluctuate depending on the quarter, with summer always, of course, being higher use. We did look at what the impacts to the system would be based on all three variables. So keeping it 90, moving it to 75 cubic meters, or moving it to 60. I can get the committee a breakdown of the numbers of what they actually are, but I don't have them in front of me right now. I apologize.
Did you have a follow-up, Tracy?
Yes, but I'm trying to make it make sense in my head. That's a big piece of missing information for me, just in trying to make the best decision for the residents. Another idea I was wondering about, and I'd seen this come up at some of our open houses, was the possibility of amalgamating quarters, because we tend to divide it up, but we don't have much water usage in the winter compared to the summer. And really looking at the pressures that we have to grow foods and to be self-sustainable. I'm wondering if that's another potential option as well.
And thank you for the follow-up. And I think it's to the potential of amalgamating the quarters and changing kind of the way we bill, changing the base rate and including a total amount of consumption within the base rate. What we wanted to have a little bit of cost certainty as far as revenues and what we're going to be bringing in. And we found that when we looked at the numbers by amalgamating the quarters, it reduces our cost certainty. Like, we want to make sure when we set the budget, we are balancing revenues and expenses every year, and we have a good idea of what those will be based on each system. I think with amalgamating, the risk would be that that consumption, by amalgamating the quarters into one, our revenues would just be way under what we would anticipate potentially. That would be my concern. We can look into it and we can investigate that a little bit more, however. But yeah, we did do a report and we brought it to the committee last March, I believe it was.
It's okay. Okay. We'll get Jim.
Yeah, I think the 60 cubic meters is a little low. My wife has a garden, and over this year, she watered the garden every day. We didn't do any lawn watering whatsoever. She had one flower bed she watered in her garden, and we still got dinged a water penalty already. And if you're going to drop this down to 60 cubic meters, she's going to be getting it dinged every quarter just for her garden. And I mean, what's the sense of having a garden? You know, you're taking people's food away off their table by doing this. I really strongly believe that. That's really unfair. You know, it's one thing this past year, we've already raised the water rates once. You want to raise the water rates again and drop the cubic meters we're using? That just seems excessive. I understand you need money, but so do I.
And through the chair, if I can just respond, and yeah, that's a really good point, and we are aware of that and the impacts it could have on the system users, and that's why we did create within the report other options to just make up the difference in expenses that we're going to look at with the bulk water by only increasing the quarterly water rates and leaving the allowable consumption alone. We don't have to, and this is why we bring the options to the committee to get your feedback. We don't have to reduce the consumption. We can do it without that. So if we look at the difference, so the initial one with reducing the consumption is an 11% increase to the quarterly water rates. If we want to just increase it by 20%, we're looking at, it goes from $180 per quarter as it currently is to $216 per quarter. So it's an extra $36 per customer per quarter for single family residential, and leaves the allowable consumption unchanged. We totally understand the impacts that can have to the users of the system.
Well, even that $36 a quarter is better than $110 a quarter in an overage charge. So,
Kristen?
In following up what Jim was saying, I spent this entire summer installing a drip irrigation system and really trying to address my consumption. And I guess I'm also curious in not having them drilling down into the numbers. I'm curious about how many households did have overages. You know, in this type of situation, you know, how many people were running over that 90. So without that sort of average consumption rate, how many overages, and trying to do the best job, I think I'm just stuck without that specific piece of information. I mean, it is us. It's we've got to figure this out together. But just trying to figure out which is the right way and whether I'd like to leave that consumption to 90, because I was at 54, and that's with a really, really, you know, working hard at reducing that consumption. And that, you know, that's right at the top. And I was barely doing anything. So, you know, with food and vegetables and all of that.
Okay, other comments? It's all covered? Did you leave out the second part or?
So if I may through the chair, under the options considered, we did lay out three potential alternate recommendations that could be. So the first one speaks to the 20% increase, which would increase revenue by approximately $155,000 to $157,000 annually, which would basically be what we need for the increase in the bulk water agreement based off past consumption levels. So that would be recommendation number one under options considered that could be passed. And what I'm hearing from the committee is at this point, there's probably a strong reluctance to change the monthly consumption, and that's completely fair. So I won't even go into number two. And then number three just speaks to kind of doing a quarterly rate increase with an increase in taxation. Again, it's just what the committee would prefer. So those recommendations are prepared under options considered.
I'm sorry. I actually don't have that part because I didn't in my computer. But what does everyone think? Did any one of those options?
I'm really stuck because I need that information before I can figure this out. It's like there's a piece missing. I don't know which way to go. I'm curious about average household consumption, because option B 2, that's not a bad idea. You know, is 75 keeping it under a reasonable amount? You know, if most people are at, you know, 65, 70, that does work. But if we're, you know, is the average 40? So I really don't know, have the information to make this decision.
well, and for myself, the $36 quarterly is, like I said, much cheaper than an overage charge because we were being charged $110 a quarter for overage. And that's just watering the wife's garden. So right there, the difference is $40 a month, $50 a month in savings. So I'd like to make a motion that we go with the $36 quarter increase. I mean, we're not going to get away from this at all one way or the other, so we might as well take the best shot we can at it and hope that this problem kind of resolves itself here. So I'll make a motion that we go ahead with the $36 a quarter increase in water rates.
Did you want to read it out where it's the options considered? That's option one, is that right?
Correct. It's option one under page 8 of your agenda package.
So option one is that the Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee recommend that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District of Directors approve amendments to bylaw 1148 Beaver Creek Water Local Service Area Rates and Regulations bylaw 2010 to include a water rate increase of $36 per quarter for single-family residents, 41 per quarter for secondary services on the same lot, and commercial connections, effective April 1st, 2026. This recommendation would be done in place of the first recommendation and represents an increase of 20% to the base water rates. This would increase revenue by approximately $157,000 annually.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Brad. And did you want to speak to that, Pam?
I just have a further question, not that I'm against the motion. Please refresh my memory. I do recall reading somewhere in all the materials that we received, some of the discussion that the city is having around their water rates and a review process or a check process around those rates. Does anybody recall how often that is going to happen? Are we going to consider this in a year or 3 years? That kind of thing is rolling around in my mind, if you have an answer.
Thank you, and through the chair. And I think this will tie into our next conversation item as well. But the city of Port Alberni is currently undertaking a water utility master planning exercise. When that will actually be completed, I believe it's to be 2026, but we know that things can be delayed, so we don't know exactly when that will be completed. What they're looking to do and what we're looking to see is what their full cost recovery rate will be to provide the water, and then what the updated rate will be. We're unsure if there'll be increases annually or what that may look like. As per now, we know what the rate increase is for the interim agreement.
Thank you.
And thank you. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Sorry,
Kristen.
just wondering how long it would take to pull that information together for the averages and consumption rates from staff.
Thank you, and through the chair, we could probably I probably have to get back to you. I think it depends on what else is going on, but it wouldn't take that long.
I think that I'm favoring your idea, Jim, of where we're going with this, but without that information, I don't feel I can make a decision yet on this. I can't vote for that because I need that other info.
So how should we deal with this? Like, can we have another meeting and put it off, or what can we do?
I mean, it's your prerogative. You could have a vote, and you can still have the vote to see where we're at, if how the majority of the committee feels, and then move from there.
Okay, that's okay. Well, I just like to make everybody happy. Okay. So are we ready to vote on it? And all in favor of the motion? Yes, you second. So all in favor? All against? Did you want it noted, or? Yeah, could we please get that noted in the minutes? And motion carried. Thank you.
I would still like the info.
And that's very valid. And we'll put it together and we'll get it through. We'll get it through to you. Are you okay receiving it? We can put it at the first meeting, the new year. We can get that information your way.
Perfect. Okay, so we can move to the next part, which is request for a decision about the Beaver Creek Water System alternate water supply next steps.
Thank you again, and I'll speak to this one. And it's a very light meeting today, isn't it? The next report focuses on next steps for the alternate water source study. As we all remember, it was completed by McElhaney Engineering earlier this year. The study compared the two primary options for Beaver Creek's long-term water supply: continuing to purchase bulk water from the city of Port Alberni, or constructing a local water treatment plant and moving with a new alternate water source. While the study outlined steps towards preliminary design for a treatment facility, the most critical factor, one of the most critical factors in making the informed decision is knowing the long-term bulk water rate from the city of Port Alberni. That rate will become clear once the city completes its water utility master plan, hopefully at some point in 2026, as referenced earlier. Preliminary design work for a treatment plant, when we reached out to a couple engineers, would cost approximately $250,000, plus additional costs for land and water testing. Moving ahead before we have the accurate cost comparisons could result in committing significant resources without certainty that the plant is the best option moving forward and financially viable. For this reason, staff have brought the recommendation forward to delay the next steps in the alternate water source study until the city's master planning exercise is complete. That approach would ensure that when we revisit this decision, likely in 2027, we would have the information needed to compare all the options accurately and make the most responsible choice for the long-term sustainability of the service and for the community. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, this is a big one. Who would like to speak first? Go ahead.
Again, this makes sense. It's just, I think to me, this has to happen. But I do have one question though, and that was the water testing. And I think that that is one thing that we should still proceed with is because that was one of the questions that we really had was that turbidity below Truman Creek. And so I think now going through, we could get a really decent amount of data for when we actually come to start working on this. So that would be the one thing that I would like to see continue is can we start doing some testing above and below Truman Creek, trying to find that location.
Thank you. And yeah, and that's something that staff can do without too much discomfort or increased costs. What we were just trying to do in this report is just make sure we're not spending any of the preliminary monies up front. But I think something like that does make some sense, and we can add that to the work plan for sure.
Other comments? Jim?
Yeah, I think we should continue on with, going ahead with this because, I mean, the whole reason we were trying to do this is to get away from the city of Port Alberni water system and get onto our own water system. And if we're putting this off just because of the city, then we're not doing what our goal is to have our own water. I know it's money, but it's, I'm sure there's grant money that's available to do this. And that's what we were told when this first started, is there would be grant money available to look into this.
Thank you, and through the chair. It would take staff time to identify potential grant money for the preliminary design. There hasn't been grant money identified or grant money allocated for the design at this point. Moving ahead, the only thing is that we and staff's recommendation is just to ensure financial prudence and not spending $250,000 if we end up not moving ahead. That's the reason behind this delay from our end.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to speak? I'm just wondering myself, if we spent the money, then would we have, shovel-ready design that if a grant did come forward or did come open that we could apply for it?
Yeah, most grant programs do require the clear defensible cost estimates and a strong business case with them. So it would help in any grants that did come up. This is, again, just for the preliminary design, which would take us to about 50% plus or minus around there. It could potentially help with identifying and allocating grants. It's hard to say, though.
Okay. I myself am worried about waiting so long because, like, from my perspective, I wanted to also do a study on incorporating Beaver Creek, but you can't get grant funding for an incorporation study if you have any big projects on the go. And this would be a big project that was on the go, so that would prevent me from moving forward too with looking at incorporating. So that's just what's going on in my mind. Anybody else?
I would say that I'm not moving in the direction of trying system. I don't think that that is, across the board here, what we've got. If we're $216 a quarter now, and then we actually look at what we have to build, and with that cost, we're now up to, $300, $400, $500 a quarter to pay for our system. I want to stay with the city. I don't want to go that direction. So I don't think we should be proceeding until we have that number from the city.
I'm just wondering, Christy, that might be the difference between operating costs and infrastructure costs. I don't know. Can you comment on that?
Through the chair, and I can't give you any definitive numbers as well, other than operating costs will increase with the water treatment plant. We'll likely need another operator to perform the treatment duties. There are extensive training and certification costs. There are large costs of treatment supplies that will be necessary as well. So there will be significant increased operations and maintenance costs. We haven't fleshed all those out yet as a part of the project and as a part of next steps. But there will be significant. And then you're looking at of course, as was mentioned in the report, the capital costs as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like personally, I don't want to wait moving forward just because you never know what the city's going to do. And, they've got a change in leadership recently, and you just don't know how long this is going to take. And we did have, not that long ago, our own water system with our own source water and managed it. So I'm thinking we could go back to that type of governance model. It's just a matter of, waiting for the city. I don't know if I feel like we should plug ahead, like keep going, but perhaps more slowly. Perhaps, we can allow time for them to catch up, because I wouldn't want this to be dragging on 2 or 3 years, which it could easily.
Yeah, I don't want it to drag on. I think ultimately we want to get to our own source, but we're afraid of the city increasing costs. So, I mean, unless we're able to lock in with the city, that would be the only way I could see staying with the city. Ultimately, if you can lock in for like a 5-10 year, so they're not all of a sudden hitting you with a big bill all the time. But I want to see Beaver Creek have control of their own water personally. So, moving on with the design would make sense in my mind, because then you can at least what you got, and then you can see if it's good or bad, right? And then you can work from there. But I don't know what the right answer is.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, time is not our friend here, for sure. And these are serious decisions that we have to make. And again, thank you, Christy. There's a little piece of information that we don't have, and that's what is the city actually going to do. And you're right, sometimes they take some longer. We heard earlier it's going to be 2026 that master plan should be in place. I just really struggle with putting out that amount of money right now until we have that piece of information. Hopefully, as it's been discussed, that we can see something in the future for Beaver Creek under control and not having to bow to what the city wants. However, it may be something we're going to have to seriously consider when that does happen. We'd still up at the very top still need a regional management of the water in this region. So I would like to put a hold on spending over a couple $100,000 and wait until we have that little piece. Thank you.
Go ahead there.
Apologize for being late. The world of the fire department. But same thing. I think I agree with Christy on some of the stuff, and I agree with all the other comments. But I said from the beginning is that we need to have all our facts before we can make any decisions. And yes, I agree. Do I want to be a part of the city? No, but we need to know what the costs are. And if the costs, unfortunately, is cheaper to go to the city versus paying whatever it's going to be, I don't know. Because we did have that before when water board, we were all there before, and then the reason why we came to reason is to be able to get those opportunities for grants and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to lose that. But I agree. I think we just have to have all that facts to make those decisions. And I don't want to go in. I agree because we do shovel ready project all the time, making sure that we're sitting there to be able to have opportunity for grants. I agree with that. But I think we need to have some more facts. But I don't want to lose because of time constraints. We need to have that. But I think if we have all that facts, we can be better informed and make better decisions on it. So, thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead.
I just think the city has already canceled our water contract once already and upped the rates. So what's stopping them from doing it again every year? You know, we could be paying a lot more money in 10 years than we would on our own water system.
I'm with you on that one, Jim, but I just think that we need to wait a few months. That we have to be prudent, that there's emotion in this decision, and that emotion needs to be removed from the decision. This isn't about feeling, this is about, we need to have the information in front of us in order to make that best decision. If they come back with a ridiculous rate, let's move on, let's get going. But we're talking about 6 to 12 months. That is a lot of money, 250,000. We'll get there. It's okay.
Okay, I'm wondering out loud, can we put this request for decision back at us in 6 months? Sorry, like I'm just wondering, do we have to decide this right now?
We need to decide to just hold off, but then we're just holding off until we get that rate from the city. If it takes a year,
16 months for them to
But-
get their.
but that's not what they're doing, from what I read here, that they're coming up with their plan.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm thinking if we put off making this decision right now and see what happens, well, wait a minute. So there's a new election coming in October, but yeah, go ahead there.
And through the chair, we can do both. We can put this off while we wait. However, we can revisit it if it looks like, because the city does regularly keep us up to date on the status of their water utility planning exercises. We can revisit this recommendation later in 2026. If it's looking like it's going to take longer than a year, we can revisit the recommendation. The intent is just to avoid spending the large sums before we have the most critical piece of information, right? But if it's going to continue being delayed, we can come back to this. This isn't to say that like we're going to all of a sudden be in 2028 or 2029, right?
So can we make, like, what would a motion look like for something like that? Can you recommend something? Yeah, yeah, you're the one.
I think we can make the motion as presented within there and just saying like we can check back in this at a further Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee meeting. I think this is a topic that we will continue to visit each meeting through 2026 in some way, shape, or form. Right. So we can keep having those up-to-date conversations and keep the conversation moving and flowing. It's not like we'll just put it on the back burner and forget about it.
So it could be on every agenda.
I was just gonna say, it just is asking us to delay the next step, so we could just put in there, delay the next step to follow
For
up at
6
each
months.
meeting, or 6
Yeah,
months,
or
3
whatever
months,
it is.
or, yeah, like we're just gonna, but keep revisiting it, sure.
Jim?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion that we don't vote on this at this moment then, and just hold off for a little while and we will review it in the spring again.
The only issue and why we're asking for this right now is because we're going into financial planning and budgeting season. So we want the allocation of the necessary monies for the preliminary design would need to be included in the financial plan for this next year. That's why this motion is coming now. We can make the motion and still delay it. Basically, if we make that motion, we're still not going to allocate the money within the financial plan. So that's where staff are coming from.
Oh, sorry. I wouldn't have a problem with taxation. Like I would be in favor of adding that to taxation just in case, because it's important. So, I mean, it might be that it gets rejected in the end, but I think that we can add it to 2026 financial draft anyways. What do you think?
I think by adding it, we're essentially saying we're moving forward with it. I think adding it to the financial plan kind of confirms, and like if we increase taxes for that purpose, we will likely, that tells the public we're moving ahead with preliminary design. So I don't think you can do that with the motion as made.
What about, okay, so there's other ways we can do it too. We could add to a reserve, maybe not with a confirmed plan, but you know, to make sure the next time this comes up, we have enough money to cover it whenever it comes up. That might work, because we do have a reserve. Okay. Like for a capital reserve, so that we can keep adding to it. We just don't want to not add to it.
I think that's one option, or another option is to just put a date to revisit this. Could we put the date that to the second meeting next? Well, we've got probably what, March? Or do we have meeting dates next year?
Jim, would you be in favor of altering your motion to put a date to it and to allow it to go forward, but with a date?
I'm just worried because he was saying that they kind of need to know now for budget for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So if we defer it, then we're basically canceling that amount of money for next year, period.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no deferment, it's a cancellation.
Through the chair, if I could, it's a difficult one because we're working on staff work plans and understanding, because it is a big project. If we end up moving forward with it, it does eat up a significant portion of staff time, both within finance and within operations. So I'm just kind of, it's a tough one to say we can delay and revisit at our second meeting, and we can have the conversation to add it to the 27 work plan. It's hard to pick it up again then and kind of audible from other work plans at that point to add it to the staff's time, right?
Is it possible to reduce the amount spent? Like you're saying it would cost $250,000 to do the work that needs to be done right now. To do this, what if we reduce the amount to 100,000 and you only did $100,000 worth of work next year in proceeding on this?
Through the chair, and if I may. So typically preliminary design costs, it's 28 to 32% of overall design costs. And that's where we came up with that number, based off what was in the McElhaney report and what we were confirmed and reaching out to a couple engineers. It would be tough to do, the data we need from doing the design to get us to 50% is the data we need to move forward that really allocates what the costs will be long-term. I think we'd still be in the same predicament potentially of allocating $100,000 is still a lot of money to allocate if we don't choose to move forward. And we're just trying to be as prudent as possible with the taxpayers' money, and not waste it, quote unquote, if that's the option that's ultimately decided to be the most favorable, right? 100,000 is still significant.
Sorry, can you tell me what's in the reserve fund and is it restricted to just capital?
The internet is moving a little bit slowly, but I'm hoping to be able to. The capital budget, and you know, we have had a healthy capital budget. We've completed a number of projects as I try to buy time by scrolling down to the actual capital budget for Beaver Creek, and we're getting there because I have a lot of budgets. We did have the Kitsuxis water main project last year that ended up, we came in at $764,000. So as we look at our potential capital budget into 2026, we are going to be roughly, where are we? Roughly about $400, $500, $500,000, roughly, give or take. And again, the numbers are updating. It's hard to get you the exact actuals until we hit year end. So
Because like, I think it makes sense to increase that, but do we have to tie it to this project, or can we just increase our reserve? Because we probably are gonna end up going down the road of having our own water system. It's just not set in stone.
we do have within the capital budget that carried over from 2025 was new source infrastructure monies that were allocated last year that we could carry over to 2026. In case it's just the real component is the large amount of staff time and audibling midway through the year. We could agree to delay it until mid-year, come back, see where we're at that point, and then move forward. We could do that.
That sounds like it might work. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think everybody would be in agreement with that. Yeah. Okay, can you make a motion for us?
I think we can just make the motion and agree to revisit it at the second meeting of the year.
Okay. So does someone want, Christie,
I'll move that.
Okay.
Move to delay to the second meeting.
and a seconder?
I'll just second that.
And any more discussion? Actually, can we, what did you have written down for the motion? Sorry.
I think that we could probably keep the motion as is, as written, that the Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee recommend that the Alberni Clackwood Regional District Board of Directors delay next steps on the alternate water source study for the Beaver Creek water system. The second meeting would be June 11th, 2026.
Okay. Does that work for everyone? That works for me. Does that work for? Okay, so can we hold a vote? All in favor? Everybody's in agreement? So, yeah, it is a tough one. Motion carried. Go ahead. Did you want to say something else? Hey. So now we need to move to 2025 operations review and 2026 operation work plan. Would you like to speak to that?
I'd love to. Thank you. And through the chair. So the next report just provides a summary of key accomplishments in 2025 and an overview of the planned work for 2026. In 2025, we focused on projects that strengthen the reliability and efficiency of the water system. Highlights included completing the conceptual design for the North Reservoir replacement, finalizing a key piece of infrastructure renewal with the Lower Kitsuxis water main renewal, advancing SCADA modernization, which phase 2 upgrades at the North Reservoir. We also have recently upgraded the metering equipment, so the meter reading and the billing software use, which will allow for much more efficient billing. That actually came in well under budget as well, so pat on the back to staff. We have negotiated an interim bulk water agreement with the City of Port Alberni, and then as just discussed, completed the alternate water source study, phase 1, to inform future decisions. As we look ahead to 2026, the work plan really emphasizes cost-effective operations and preventative maintenance rather than major infrastructure replacements. Key initiatives include completing the detailed design for the North Reservoir replacement, implementing phase 3 SCADA upgrades at the Kitsuxis pump station, some crack sealing that's necessary in the Kitsuxis Reservoir, renewing fleet assets, and acquiring leak detection equipment to improve water loss monitoring. We feel these actions support long-term sustainability, operational efficiency, aligned with our strategic priorities, and really don't don't necessitate allocating any significant capital costs in 2026. Happy to answer any questions about the work plan or about 2025 in general.
Okay, any questions?
Okay, I do have a question. I was just wondering what phase 3 was. I haven't read that for a while.
So in 2024, we highlighted a four-phase approach to modernize our SCADA systems within each of the 4 pump houses. So phase 3 is really the third of the 4 pump stations to get it. We've allocated it's roughly $20,000, $20,000 to $25,000 per pump station to upgrade the technology and the reliability of the SCADA system. So we did Strick Road in 2024. 2025, we did the North Res, and then in 2026, we'll be focusing on the Success Road pump station.
Okay, other questions? Are we all good? Would someone like to make the motion to receive the report?
Make that motion.
Thanks, Pam. A seconder? Thank you very much, Jim. And all in favor? Motion carried. Thank goodness. Okay, now late business, there isn't any. Question period, is there anything? Okay, so we're ready to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Thank you. And all in favor, or sorry, seconder, and then all in favor. Thank you.